Collaboration is for the naive and the blind. Leader Fan Radio Network, and KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 48 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Welcome back. Monday edition of the Afternoon Aardvark, hosted by the A-Hole in the afternoon. That's me, Dan Barreiro, former Ring Stain Wretch, newspaper of the Twin Cities. Guardsy produces the show. And once again, it will be a full 3.5 hour tour on a way too moist for me Monday here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Dew points feel tropical to me.
Sticky.
Am I wrong? Temperature is not awful, but the dew points, as they inexorably do this time of year, they are rising.
59, though, right now.
Oh, 59 is not considered. What's tropical, 60 or 64?
Usually when it's into the 60s, it feels oppressive.
59's on the edge. It felt pretty moist to me. Maybe not as moist as it's been or it will be, but I felt a tad. I'm not saying I expect to drive by palm trees anytime soon, but I felt a little bit of that. Guardsy, as I said, produces the program. We will give you the uglydeck.com guest lineup in just a couple minutes. It includes an in-studio visit at 3:30 this very afternoon.
This is considered comfortable to slightly sticky.
Okay.
59
All right,
dew
I can
point.
see it. Yeah, it can be stickier.
But we're right on the fence of noticeably humid, muggy evenings.
Well, what happened is I got spoilt because we've had, until the last week or two, incredibly dry conditions from a dew point standpoint. And I got spoilt. That's what it was. I know I have to be realistic. We've learned over a period of many, many decades here now, I have, that in many ways, Minnesota weather is the worst of the worst in that we suffer in the winter, and unfortunately, we often suffer in the summer. The notion of dry, cool days in the 70s, give me a break. Those days barely exist anymore. But we'll get to more weather a little later in the broadcast. Can I tell you why collaboration is for the naive and why it pertains, it's so relevant to the reaction to and all the discussion on whatever the Vikings separation of power is now going to be? And we frankly still don't know what it's going to be, correct? We've got a new general manager, is that correct?
Yeah, new football executive.
What's his name?
His name, hold on. He comes from the Seahawks. Yeah. He's a big shot with the Seahawks.
He's the right-hand man of
John Schneider.
Of John Schneider, their Super Bowl winning general manager heavyweight.
Nolan Teasley.
Nolan Teasley is his name. And we talked a lot about him yesterday on sermons, but I'm hearing a lot about the importance of, well, maybe the importance is the wrong word, just the reality of collaboration. That's just the way it works, and that's the way it's going to work in this organization, in part because they say it so often, in part because they think here they want to live it. They think it's cutting edge. And in part because we've got a new triangle of authority. Whether we call it that or not, it appears that's what we have. Now, we may come to find out. I don't know when the presser is going to be.
Tomorrow morning.
It is tomorrow morning?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe he's going to step up to the podium, Seattle guy, and say, boys and girls, I believe in collaboration as much as the next guy, but I would not have accepted this job if I did not have the power of the purse, the power of determining who the coach is going to be, the power, and he's never going to say it in terms that stark, but maybe we'll find out that he's got more power than we think. I mean, it's the interesting question I've had all along. Do you really want this job? If you're viewed as an up-and-comer, do you really want this job if it has no power associated with it? Or you are, in effect, a glorified director of player personnel, right? And not a general manager. There's a difference between the two, general manager. But hopefully we get some of that stuff on the record, and maybe we hear more of it off the record, and we get a little bit more interpretation of how we can read all of this and this particular move. But Here's the fatal flaw on the collaboration part of it. How often did we hear the previous general manager use that term?
A lot.
As much as KOC, or certainly the same, maybe more. I think Kwesi may have used more buzzwords than KOC did, and KOC used them a lot. Collaboration save Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah from getting fired? No. It didn't. The decision was made that he did not do a good enough job in his position. So we can talk all we want about working together and collaboration and all these fine things, but in every job, the buck has to stop somewhere. It's the way it works. Not every decision maybe is even defensible. Sometimes maybe coaches and general managers get fired too easily, too soon. Fall guys, so to speak. But it's why my eyes get glassy. I lose focus when I'm continually hearing about, well, it's a group effort. You know, everybody is in it, and does it really matter? I mean, how many places are there where, you know, one guy's in charge? I think you'd be surprised to find out there's a lot of places where that's the case. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good at the job, but it means that's the way it simply makes sense to do. I mean, part of and obviously this didn't bother him, maybe because he likes the job enough, but our new GM, right off the bat, it's nonsensical, but it's the reality of what he's inheriting. He's now working, presumably, ostensibly, is in charge of a draft he had nothing to do with. Nothing. Nothing to do with. Zero. Now, it may work out great, but I still think it's ass backwards. It's why, and you brought this up a long time ago. I think early we all were a little too soft on, I'll wait it out. We'll see. We'll put Brzezinski on probation. We'll see how it goes. And there's no hurry. There isn't, but it still doesn't make any sense. In a perfect world, this is the guy who's in charge of the draft from the beginning, as opposed to inheriting one, what was it, a month ago? How long ago was the draft?
The draft was late April.
April. So month and 6, whatever it is.
And Nolan Beasley was available when they fired Kwesi too,
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Or Teasley.
And
the press conference is on Wednesday.
On names. Wednesday, okay.
Yeah, June 3rd.
We're off to a great start today.
10 a.m. Happy Monday.
So, because here, and this continues to be my problem with what we accept as just gospel, because it's too convenient. Here's the gospel. KOC has heavy influence. Why? I just guess because he's done a good job of carving out his place in the power structure, and he just has. I'm talking about on drafts. I'm talking about on personnel. We have a defensive coordinator that is basically identified as, when he wants a player, he's going to get a player. And I'm continuing to tell you, I don't like that structure. You know who would love that? You know who probably loves that structure? KOC and B-Flow. Because it's genius. If it goes right, there'll be whispers about how, well, these are the guys they really wanted. Offense, KOC, B-Flow defense. If it doesn't go so well, it's not really their job. It's a GM's job. And that's part of what I think what has been unfair to Kwesi. His record was not very good. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But it's why I hope, because I guess people they're aroused by the terms, the buzzwords so much, and it sounds cool in theory to say, we all are in this together. We collaborate. It's a team deal. That sounds wonderful. But in the end, decisions have to be made on who did the job and who didn't. And that goes back to, well, who was in charge of that? Whose call was that particular decision? And that's why I hope when you said it's Wednesday, Teasley steps up to the podium and says, it's not a job. Look, I'm in a really good organization. I was in a really good place. I'm not going to come to a place where I don't think I'm going to have a chance to do the job that I think a general manager should do, right? Maybe I hope he says that. I'm not convinced he will be allowed to, but it's why I'm not anti-collaboration. I'm not what are the other ones we love?
Alignment.
And coordination and alignment. Yeah, intentionality. That's it.
Yep.
I'm not anti those, but they allow such vagueness to seep in, and I think it makes it hard for everybody to know where are we with all this stuff? Whose call is that? Obviously, with any team, one would assume that the coach has some input, right? You want to have
he has to coach
communication. He's got to coach him, but in the end, I don't know, man. I think at some of the best places, like the Rams, the guy in charge of personnel and general managing, he does his job. Lets the coach do. He gets the players. So that's where I think, as I said, the collaboration stuff gets silly very, very quickly. Because I'm going to just tell you something, man. Collaboration gets you fired. And in the end, everybody, people in charge of the firing and the hiring, in this case maybe owners, they have to know about that. So be careful assuming that just throwing the words around and even saying, does it really matter? Coach has got a lot to say. B-Flow apparently has a lot to say, even though he doesn't have, neither one of them has that title of director of player personnel.
And Flo could be gone any year for another job.
Yeah, exactly. I keep waiting for it to happen. Yeah. Maybe this lawsuit ever gets settled, or now I guess it's going to court. Brzezinski's got his place. Okay. Godspeed. Maybe that'll work out wonderfully, but if I'm the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, I want to know what's what and who is in charge of what, and I don't think that's dictatorial. I just think it flows better. It flows better, no pun intended, if there's a better understanding of that. Because in the end, if Kwesi had walked into whatever Wilf's office, or maybe on the phone, and said, hey, guys, maybe heard rumors that he was going to be dismissed. Guys, we're all collaborating, remember? This is all one big collaboration. We're all in this together. I tried to defer a lot to my head coach and to my defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Did that do him any good? No.
What he didn't know is there was a side collaboration.
That's it.
There was a second collaboration, I think, that was collaborating against him.
Yeah, I don't even know if in the old days they call that a palace coup, but I don't know if that's the case here. Are bonus bucks back?
Kind of.
Oh.
But not this hour.
Okay.
We are part of the $250,000 cash contest giveaways.
Man.
We'll be looking to give away $2,500 at 5:10. We don't have anything until then.
$2,500 is a good start.
$2,500 at 5:10.
And then if you win that, you qualify for did you say $250,000?
$250. I don't know how we're giving that away.
$250,000?
Because it's America. 1776, baby.
I see. It's patriotic. What you're saying.
You know we are. Yes, we are.
Always have been.
You're listening to Barreiro on The Fan.
From the...
Vikings new general manager hire with Kevin Seifert, who's going to join us in studio today, bottom of the hour. Don't forget Johnny Athletic, also part of the uglydeck.com guest lineup. He is scheduled to join us at 5:30 with the very latest Wolves steamy rumors. The speculation, some of it may be reckless, maybe some not so much. We'll see. That's Johnny, and maybe a preview of the NBA Finals. Now, indeed, set starting Wednesday night. Stanley Cup Finals start tomorrow night. We will preview those with Luigi. Maybe did he say he might be coming in for the third straight?
That's
week?
What he said.
Yeah.
He said, yeah.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Real quick, I've said, and I've said this from the beginning, I've been on record, I do like that Teasley comes from a very good program, and I do like that he knows several people here, but he hasn't worked for 7 years with any of them. I all along have felt this team needs a little less country clubism, despite all the collaboration, and somebody with a fresh look. The question is, what can he do? How much power does he have to deal with that? To, I guess, act upon the guy who has the fresh look and might say, I'm not sure we like doing this. We want to do that. We'll see. More on that later. There was a good piece, I don't know, it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, by my former compadre at the Star Tribune, Royce, noting the 20-year anniversary of the Twins deal getting done, the Twins' new ballpark deal getting done.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah, of course.
It was a closer vote. It was a nip and tuck, really, till almost the very end. And it got me thinking, because I don't think there's anybody out there who has spent more than 10 minutes at Target Field who believes that the project itself, in terms of as a structure, as a sports edifice, has been anything but magnificent. Yeah. It's a great setting in a downtown, the whole bit, great backdrop. There's not any arguing about any of that. But I'm thinking to myself, as I'm watching, or half watching, the Twins get swept again this weekend. In fact, I think we lost 6 of our last 7, because the White Sox took 3 out of 4 from us, and then we got swept by the Pirates over the weekend. The rotation now ceases to exist. All of our starters are either on the injured list or about to be, or dead, right, whatever the case may be. And the juxtaposition of, the celebration of that moment, which, again, paid off in terms of the structure that was built. But how could anybody in their right mind look at the current condition of this franchise, and even if you want to, forget ownership for the moment? If you're always going to dismiss anything related to this organization, there they go, KFAN about ownership again. Let's leave ownership out of it. The condition of the ball club itself, opposite that, the ballpark, the difference between the beauty of the ballpark and the unsightly nature of the team itself. You say, what's wrong with this picture? Where are we, America? Why should anybody feel optimistic? The last time Gleeman was in studio, what was one of the main subjects? One of the main subjects was that he was specifically talking about the bullpen. And what I asked him about was the notion that we know it's another gap year. It's going to be another gap year. We knew that before the season began. So you say to yourself, you decided to gut the bullpen you had a working bullpen last year. You gutted it. By the way, check out Varland's numbers.
Oh, do
when
I
you have
want
a second?
To?
Just check out Louis Varland's numbers so far this season. But you decide to gut it. And the whole grievance from Gleeman was, what's the point of replacing that bullpen with older, aging, veteran guys? Where are you going with them? Why not bring up some of the kids? You're going to probably take your lumps, but you're going to take your lumps anywhere. And we've talked, how many times have we talked about this? Maybe it leads to somewhere. Maybe it allows you to have, a better understanding of your entire minor league system, where you need help, where you feel pretty optimistic that there's some good pieces coming down the road. And that's the problem with the whole deal at this point is and I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's worth going over again. If you're a fan who isn't offended by ownership and tries to separate all those issues, if you're just a ball person, explain the plan. What is the wisdom? I'm talking about even before injuries, of using people, everyday players, and even, like I said, bullpen members who have no future, who might have a reasonable present, but have no future. is this the big vision? You know, when we got the deal done and we bring in, you know, we'll spend more money, but we know how to put together a team. This is the vision? Where is it going? What's the point of this? Did you see the quotes? Who's our new manager?
Derek Shelton.
Shelty, who did we just play? We played the team that just fired him,
The
correct?
Pirates, yeah. His former club.
Did you read Shelty's quotes today? Waxing like he was in love with... They were talking about the young pitchers that the Pirates have, and then he was talking about how, there's like 8 more guys coming up. He sounded very much like a guy who said, where do I really want to be?
Whimsical.
Would I rather be here or would I rather be there? Now, he didn't have a choice. They fired him. But that's the sad reality of this thing, is that even if you don't want to make it about the money and about ownership and about them changing their mind and about gutting the payroll over the last 2 off seasons and about, gutting the bullpen at the break last year, you might be able to defend some of those things. You said, you know what we're doing, boys and girls? You ain't going to like it. We're bringing up our kids, and we're gonna lose some games, but we're going to gain equity, we think, in these players. They're going to gain experience. It might hurt at first, but it's all part of a master plan. How is the plan 20 years after the big approval on the ballpark that we're going to be mediocre and we're going to do it with players who aren't going to be around in 2 years? How does that, is that inspiring? Does that inspire anybody to say, I want to get to the ballpark, I want to be a part of this thing? That's the state of your club. It's sad but true. Did you find Varland?
Oh, Varland's numbers, yeah, those are absurd. I don't even know if I want to tell. His ERA is 0.29.
You should tell people. They need to know.
0.29.
0.29. Is that good?
It's pretty good. His whip is like 1.03. I clicked off it because I wanted to find these Shelty quotes.
Did you find them? Because that's what I was going to try to look for while you spoke.
I watched it over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You could see this was coming, and they've got more coming, too. Yeah. They got Hernandez, the kid they took last year, who's one of the top 2 or 3 prospects in baseball.
Yeah.
They've done a good job of identifying arms and developing
Does he sound like a guy who wants to be here, where they haven't even figured out? They wouldn't even know if they have good young people coming up because we're not trying to find out at this level.
Well, let me juxtapose.
Or what he's got going.
Well, which is...
Or what the Pirates have going, his former team.
Who is going to fill Ober's spot in the rotation? Because Ober's dead now.
Yes.
And Shelty's quote to that was, that's 5 days from now.
It's not that.
Right now, I'm trying to get through tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
it's frustrating.
That's where we're at right now. And
it doesn't sell a lot of hope, you're right, when you play the old guys.
No.
If you play the young guys, at least people can pretend, hey,
yeah, they
got
might
a chance.
be terrible. But at least maybe you can find out a few things. And again, this goes back, we had this discussion 2 weeks ago with specifically having to do with the bullpen with Gleeman. The other thing, next time we have Gleeman on, I hope we're going to get him. I'd like to get him this week.
It sounds like he's coming in Wednesday after the game.
Okay,
he's just going to come from Target Field right over
That's even better.
Here. Yep.
Because now, Buck, are we back to Buck at DH? Right? Because Buck is spending a lot more time there again.
He was, yeah.
We thought we solved all of that. I'm not exactly sure where it is. Here's first there's a Brooks Lee quote on the Pirates and White Sox pitchers that they faced over the last week. They're young, they're hungry, and they throw hard. He actually was saying that about Pittsburgh. Brooks Lee did. And then you read the Shelton quote. I watched over the last 4 or 5 years. You can see this coming. And we got more pitchers coming, too. They got Hernandez, the kid they took in the draft last year, who's one of the top 2 or 3 young prospects in baseball. They've done a good job of identifying arms and developing arms.
We know it's not good baseball.
That's not the team he's managing. That's the team he managed before. That's the team we just faced and just got blown out by.
That team sent him to a stint with Sirius for 6 months.
Think about it. Well, he lost like 800 games in 5 years. I mean,
he took the bumps. Maybe he said in the interview process, let's not do the young player thing. I can't do that again. I'm going to be fired in 18 months.
Amazing.
But it might happen again.
You know what? We're going to have, we're going to talk a lot of football, obviously, with Kevin Seifert. But we're not going to talk GM early. We're going to get to it. But I'm going to run a theory by him based on a big trade that was made today. And I'm wondering if this is the kind of big move that hits us in the face that we're a cute club, we're a cute collaborative organization, we got high hopes, but we're not playing on this level. We're just not playing on the level of a few other teams. We'll get to that and much, much, much more with Seifert in studio. Questions on the quarterback situation, GM situation, whatever else is on your mind, 646-86.
This is Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
It happens only once.
Seifert is in studio. Lots of good text already coming into the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line at 64686. Johnny Athletic, will he be in studio today too?
Not planning on it.
Well, he was. He made his once-a-year
He gave us his yearly studio
visit a couple weeks ago, correct?
Yes.
We can't expect him to follow through, several times over the course of a calendar year.
And if I make a prediction today, you'll say something about it. You'll say that Seifert joined in studio, and Johnny will immediately play his trump card that he comes out to the State Fair.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean,
it's about that time of year.
It's the merry-go-round of Bumper to Bumper. We go around and around and around. We continue to play the same hits.
Yes, we do.
They're good, though.
They're great hits.
They better be. Welcome back. Let's get to the trades first.
Yeah.
Because I think the second one has just been announced. Everybody knew or thought it was that if A.J. Brown was going to be traded, it was going to be, it would only be to New England, correct?
Yeah.
And now it's happened.
Yeah.
Is that right? And what did they get in return? I didn't even see.
It's a first-round pick in 2028.
Okay.
And then I think a second-round pick in 2027, maybe.
2027 fifth rounder, 2028 first rounder.
There you go.
According to ESPN.com, quite reputable.
I appreciate the details there. Yeah. So and I actually think that's been more or less done for a while, and there was a June 1st mechanism that needed to kick in order to make it more palatable for a salary cap. But for the 2028 first rounder was obviously the major thing in play there. A
good gamble by New England or not? I mean, he's a talented player, but he's also goofy. So
yeah, I mean, but there are many receivers who are, and
that's true.
That when you're working in that area, that's part of what you get. But he was, I mean, still very productive, and
without a great passing game, really.
Yeah,
this last year,
really in an offense that the reporting since the end of the season has suggested was completely mismanaged and completely ill-conceived, and if anything, he just had less patience for it than.
So he might have had a point.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And then the Jalen Hurts part, there was, the people at the Philly media had a lot of grist there to cover a potential lack of relationship between him and Jalen Hurts, and so to whatever extent that was true, maybe that added to it as well. But still at a point in his career where he can be extremely productive, and immediately be the top receiver on that team that made the Super Bowl and has a quarterback that's up and coming, and it makes perfect sense.
All right, the other big one is Myles Garrett going to the Rams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now official. I think it was made official just within the last hour. I mean, it had been reported earlier, correct?
Yeah.
And in this, so the deal is Cleveland receives, in exchange for Garrett, Cleveland gets edge rusher Jared Verse, a 2027 first rounder, a 2028 second rounder, and a 2029 third round pick. There's a statement here from the Browns general manager. We've long taken the stance that our goal was for Myles Garrett to be a one-helmet player. Oh, I love that term, one-helmet player, for his entire career. After rewriting the record books and representing our organization with excellence, we were sincere in that desire as we entered this offseason, did not envision a world where Myles was not a Cleveland Brown. When the Rams approached us with the possibility of trading him, we remained convicted in our position, but as discussions intensified, we were stuck at a legitimate crossroads. Do we hold on to a truly generational player, or do we make the difficult decision that we think is best for the organization over the long run? So who wins this deal?
This year,
could be both.
Yeah,
right?
This year the Rams, but the Browns got a lot back, and it is unfortunate. I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's not just a generational whatever. I mean, one of the best pass rushers in NFL history, probably.
You're making it sound like he's got 1 year left.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, he's already gotten to that point.
Yes.
Where he's already considered that, and so this year for sure, the Rams will win it with Myles Garrett teaming with Matthew Stafford, the reigning MVP and the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, to put the Rams in position to probably be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. But it was the right thing for the Browns because they're nowhere close to that. And so, if you can get that kind of return for that player, then go for it. In addition, you still have, and you replace him with somebody who's at least a pretty formidable pass rusher in Jared Verse, and you get a ton of draft capital back. And you're probably at least 1 year away from really competing anyway. And the 2027 quarterback draft is awfully interesting. And whoever ends up playing quarterback this year for the Browns might just be a one and done. And so then you have enough draft capital to really, not say control the draft, but certainly control your ability to get somebody who can be a long-term quarterback for you. So I think both of them, it was right for both of them. It's a lot for the Rams to give up, but it's hard to argue with their history, and it's hard to argue with the position it puts them in for this season.
He's 30. He'll turn 31 late December.
Yeah.
So he's, a little long in the tooth, but not. I don't think anybody thinks he's got like a year and a half left.
No, and you don't have to play he does, but you don't have to play a pass rusher 1,000 snaps a season by any means. And so they can pick and choose a little bit more if they feel like he's getting to a point where they want to preserve his health for a playoff run. He's hopefully in their mind, hopefully he's playing 20 games this year. And so, we'll see how that goes.
So this strikes me. This is what I was alluding to before the break. I look at this. And again, I think you've laid it out nicely. From the Browns' point of view, it might be the right thing to do. This could be the proverbial both teams win in this kind of a deal. Because that's a lot to get. And as you say, I think that's Cleveland acknowledging, where are we going, right? Mm-hmm. Even if Browns fans might not want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's true whether it's declared or not. This kind of declares it. On the other hand, I think of the Rams and I think of this kind of move and I say, man, this feels like what really big-time teams do. And we're cute, and we might reemerge a little bit, but we're in checkers, and this is kind of chess. Doesn't it feel like they're on another level in that regard?
Yes, and part of the reason is they have a Hall of Fame quarterback, and who's getting each year. You wonder if it's going to be his last year, and so you're trying to maximize it. And so, what would we be saying if the Vikings made that trade? I mean, we'd be excited to see Myles Garrett and the Brian Flores defense for sure. It would be fun to watch. But would it be? Are they a team, or how many teams in the league are literally one player away from being considered the Super Bowl favorite? And the Vikings are not in that position, and the Rams have always been in that position since since Sean McVay got Jared Goff to a certain level. I mean, since Sean McVay's been in the Rams, they've had at least a Pro Bowl level quarterback, if not a Hall of Fame level quarterback, and so they've been able to leverage that to say, like, we don't need to do what the Browns did and start thinking about another few years from now. We're there. We're very close. And so we can take big swings and big risks because we're trying to maximize this window we have with this quarterback, whether it's Jared Goff or Matthew Stafford. And so, the Vikings aren't in that spot, and not many teams are, but that's really, to me, what you would need to have is somebody truly established at that position, still playing at a very high level, and you not wanting to leave anything to chance in terms of maximizing your chance to win the Super Bowl with him that year.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the quarterback part of this, because on the basis of, you surprised me a little bit last week, because you did the caveats that you're supposed to, but nevertheless, you basically wrote the competition is over for the Vikings at quarterback. You saw enough one day that the gap is so enormous, about maybe as enormous as you think it might be, between a 7-year, and now an 8th-year veteran starter and a guy who hasn't really accomplished anything yet or proven anything yet at this level. You basically declared it. Kevin Seifert, declared it over after one ATO day. No, what do we call it? OTA?
OTA. Yeah. I don't know if it was my intent to do that. To me, think that is, since the moment Kyler Murray has signed, I've thought that this is where it was. I did not want to portray that I was making my decision based or making any statements based on seeing one OTA practice, even though there was a noticeable difference. Factually,
can't help yourself.
Factually, objectively, I don't think anybody, if you had been there at the KFAN, I mean, in terms of the throwing, in terms of the things that, whatever you would want to see in that
particular, against air.
Yeah. And so every throw, and I did point out, like, every throw should be good in that situation, and there was a difference there. And so, if you had been there at the KFAN tent, I think you would have had the same thought, as an astute football observer. And so I don't think that anybody, I don't think I was parsing, body language or parsing arm angles or leg kicks or anything. It was just clear who looked better and it doesn't mean that it can't get closer, but there's a big gap that JJ McCarthy has to make up, and I think if we're fooling ourselves and not being honest with ourselves, if we portray this competition as equal, it's the best player will win. But right now, I don't think there's a question about who the best player is.
There was a lot of discussion. I don't know if you participated in this part of it, but some of your fellow media jackals did. The amateur psychoanalysis game of analyzing body language and quotes from Kyler on the one hand and JJ on the other hand. And this nationally has become sport already in one day. And I actually stood up for JJ a little bit as a guy who's been fairly critical of his season, the last season, and even some of his demeanor. But isn't it easy? I mean, if this was the view nationally in some places, Kyler sounded like an adult. He sounded like a pro. He sounded mature. He said all the right things. And JJ sounded a little bit surly and a little bit childish and a little bit like he was pouting and pitching a fit. And I'm thinking to myself, well, look at the two situations, though. I mean, in the case of the case of Kyler, he needs a home. The Vikings have provided him a new home. They're clearly, intend for him to start. It's pretty easy for him to take the high, if you want to call that the high road. In JJ's case, he probably is going to be a little annoyed, even though he may know why they had to do it, that he's not going to necessarily sound as presidential as Kyler Murray did.
Yeah, and we can box ourselves in because we as reporters and probably even fans want to hear the honest thoughts of somebody. Yes. And I think JJ was giving that, and then we turn around and say, well, why did you say that? Right. And so I think, to the extent that anybody thought it was noticeable, I think the one relevant part would be that if you're a person who's probably has an uphill battle to win the competition or to play in week one, and you're in an industry where the bosses look unkindly on anything that creates a headline or anything that draws attention to yourself, even if you're just being honest and even if you're just standing up for yourself and expressing, with pride or whatever else that you aren't going to take this just, sitting down, that you may or may not help yourself by creating a headline. Now, it's not, JJ McCarthy can't decide whether something is put into a headline or not, but, that was just the trade-off. And so I think but he would have been ripped either way.
Exactly.
Because he would have been ripped for saying, he was ripped for portraying that there's not a complete level of cooperation going on in the quarterback room. But if he had said, I love this guy, I'm so looking forward to watching him play this year or whatever else.
Where's 9? People say, where's 9?
People will be like, well, where's your competitive spirit?
Exactly.
Don't you care? And so it would, he's in a tough spot, but I think to the extent that anyone thought that there was actual damage done, and I don't know that there was, but that you would be in you're better off not drawing any headlines yourself when you're in that spot. But that's the direction it went.
As you well know, ultimately, the test on McCarthy will be how he performs.
Yeah.
In other words, even if he had said all of the right things that first day, if he struggles in training camp, it's just nothing's gonna change, and nobody's gonna go back to, he said all the right things. They're gonna say, well, no, he's still not making the reads right, or he's not getting rid of the ball quick enough, or He's still talking about himself in the third person, whatever.
And part of my point was that even if that doesn't happen, even if he does make the throws and he hits people in the hands and they're off to the races and he looks decisive, like, does that mean he wins? Like, you have to be better than the other guy. And so not only does he have to get to the point where those things, which happened a fair bit last year, aren't happening, but then he has to elevate to another level, to above a guy that's a pretty dang good football player, regardless of what happened in Arizona. And so that's the challenging part for him. It's not just getting better. It's like getting good enough.
Similarly, I'd say I have a hard time believing that Kyler Murray is all excited about helping J.J. McCarthy any way he can. And I'm not saying that it would be an indictment, but that's why this stuff is just so surfacey. You know what I'm saying? What's he going to say? It's not like they're going to sit. I doubt that they're going to sit down together all that much. I'd be shocked if they do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it was an easy answer to give, but it's almost like a look through the looking glass where like your reporter's asking for honest answers and then like complimenting people for answers that were easy but maybe not fully honest or whatever. And so it's a little bit of a box that those guys can't get out of, unfortunately, in our media environment. But and it certainly gave plenty of discussion for the TV shows and the radio shows in a quiet part of the NFL season. But and I don't think any permanent damage came of that, nor do I think we got any great insight. I just thought the biggest insight was that JJ felt compelled to let people know that he's not taking this sitting down.
Here's the juicy, for me, quarterback question. Somebody brought this up the other day, and I never got to it. A texter. Is there a possibility that J.J. McCarthy comes out of camp the number 3 quarterback? Could that happen?
It could. I mean, what's the likelihood? I don't know. But if he goes in the other direction, they have, like, that's the point, part of the point of having Carson Wentz. Like, Kevin O'Connell, and I said this last week, like, Kevin O'Connell, one of his primary goals this offseason was to emerge in a situation where it's not just that you have what you hope is a better starting quarterback, but you have better backup and you have a better third guy. And most teams aren't, when you get to the third quarterback or, God forbid, the fourth quarterback, like it's going to be a struggle in most cases. And it was for the Vikings in 2023 and then again last season. But he was very determined to talk somebody into or recruit somebody, and it turned out to be Carson Wentz, to ensure that if they got to a third quarterback or if the second quarterback was, went in reverse and wasn't able to be the second quarterback, that they would be okay, that they would not have to scramble and go trade for Nick Mullins at the end of, as they did a few years ago, or sign Carson Wentz at the end of August, or start Jaron Hall in the October, or start Max Brosmer in a November, maybe it was a December game, and go from there. And so like that, so I think Carson Wentz was a big part of their overall offseason plans. Even if he ends up as the third quarterback, like that's not an insignificant thought in Kevin O'Connell's mind. Whereas many teams will basically, like, if we get a third quarterback, it's over anyway. Yeah,
there's a lot of baggage here about that now. Understandably.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're going to get the top of the hour break in now. We're going to get to what you know about our new general manager, Nolan Teasley. If the hire itself gives us any clues into the power of that job, the approach that he might take from the beginning. We'll get into the Brzezinski component of this thing. We've got a lot of good texts that have come in. Also, kind of linking the Vikings quarterback, I guess you could say, succession with the general manager. So we'll get to all of that and maybe a couple of other things as we continue in studio with Seifert. Johnny Athletic will chat with us with the very latest Timberwolves trade rumors, none of them including the return of Karl Anthony Towns. He joins at 5:30.
You are listening to Barreiro.